suffering from extreme worrying, get proven tools to stop anxiety for good, feel constantly nervous and stressed about everything. Modern life leaves over 80% of grown-ups in non-stop anguish. What if much worry comes just from caring too much about things we can't control and wanting the wrong stuff, shaped by confused thinking? Wise Stoic teachers long ago built rock-solid calm against life's storms by seeing things differently. Join me today and get 10 powerful techniques they used to master chillness in key areas of living. Finally stop needless fretting once and for all. Regain next-level peace of mind amid messiness. Make habits to thrive through daily ups and downs, big and small. I'm thrilled to unlock the same mindset training that guided greats like Nelson Mandela through suffering. Tune in as we learn history's strongest blueprint for caring just the right amount, the awesome might of Stoic wisdom. Have you ever found yourself tossing and turning at night, unable to sleep because you just can't stop thinking about something that happened, or worrying about the future, or fuming in anger at someone for what they did or said? As human beings, it's natural for us to have strong emotional reactions to people or events. But what if there was a different way to think about these situations that could save us a whole lot of suffering? The Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome thought there was. They observed that much of human misery actually stems from just one fatal flaw in the way people see the world, not being able to distinguish between what is within their control and what isn't. Let's take an everyday illustration. Think about when you're driving to an important appointment and suddenly get stuck in a massive traffic jam that makes you late. How does that usually feel? The frustration, the anger. Your mind races as you think, why on earth didn't I leave earlier? Or why is there so much traffic today? In reality though, did you actually have control over how much traffic there was going to be? Probably not. But in moments like these, we often fail to make that distinction between what we can control and what we can't. The Stoics recognized this tendency and actively practiced viewing things differently. In any situation, they identified the parts that were actually within their control. In this traffic scenario, perhaps the time you left the house or your state of mind, they focused their care and effort only on those controllable parts. Have you ever obsessively anticipated something, perhaps that Hawaiian vacation or winning an award, only to find yourself disappointed or sad when you end up not getting it? Stoics understood how expectations and attachments often lead to suffering. They believed in managing our passions and moderating desires rather than suppressing emotions completely. Take trying to cheer up a friend going through a painful breakup. You desperately want them to feel better because their sadness causes you discomfort. The more attached you are to a specific outcome, the more turbulence you feel. Stoics practiced distinguishing healthy concern for others from expectations that people must feel certain ways. It's caring about doing right in your sphere of influence while avoiding attempts to control how others respond. This principle applies to managing many of our own passions too, about status, fame, possessions. Moderating such passions is key to not caring excessively. Have you noticed how losing electricity or Wi-Fi, even temporarily, feels like the end of the world today? Our modern comforts shield us from small inconveniences, rendering it impossible to tolerate discomfort. Stoics willingly endured hardships to experience voluntary discomfort. Sleeping without pillows or fasting strengthened their self-discipline so they wouldn't care about trivial lacks of comfort. Next time you're tempted to complain about a long wait at the doctor's office or a warm room, catch yourself. Remind yourself that nothing truly catastrophic has occurred, only an inconvenience. With practice over time, the involuntary difficulties you'll encounter will also bother you less when your mind is prepared. Discomfort training trains you to not get bothered unnecessarily about physical or mental distress that is inevitable in life. Have you ever found yourself blown into a rage over some frustrating event, only to zoom out later and think, why did I get so worked up about something so small? Our egos frequently exaggerate problems. Stoics overcame this by regularly reflecting on the smallness of things. When someone cuts you off violently on the road, try seeing it as a neutral event without meaning rather than a personal affront. When annoyed at a rude remark, put yourself in their shoes with the empathy that perhaps they acted in ignorance. And when faced with failures, contemplate all those who overcame worse with resilience, or reflect on the brevity of one incident compared to the span of your life ahead. Maintaining perspective allows you to not care excessively about momentary events. We often ruminate endlessly about events that did not go as anticipated, fretting over what could have been done differently. Stoics understood the folly in worrying about factors outside one's control, instead focusing their care on what they could control, their judgments, values, and actions. Imagine struggling for years to get a coveted promotion at work, only to see it unfairly handed to a less competent colleague. While difficult, practicing the Stoic mindset means handling the disappointment with grace and continuing to contribute value without resentment or spite at being passed over due to office politics. Or picture public discourse turning sharply against a cause you care deeply about. Maintaining Stoic equanimity involves continuing to behave true to your principles while attempting to positively shape the dialogue rather than getting despondent. Energy is directed only toward handling what is in your power virtuously rather than what is beyond control. As humans, we frequently project our biases, prejudices, and subjective interpretations onto situations, seeing them as inherently good or bad. Stoic thinkers sought to overcome this tendency by practicing viewing events more neutrally and objectively. Getting cut off aggressively in traffic can feel like a trigger when seen as a personal offense. Your mind races thinking about how you hope karma catches up to the other driver. The Stoic view involves taking a step back to see it simply as a car changing lanes, without assigning additional meaning and drama around motives or deserving punishment. Similarly, with someone making a rude, offensive remark, the instinct is to judge them as a mean individual deserving your anger in return. Adopting a Stoic mindset means attempting to observe their words objectively, potentially recognizing the slight as arising from ignorance rather than malice. With practice, stripping away the subjective values our egos attach to external occurrences makes it far easier to not get worked up excessively about momentary issues. As humans, we frequently develop deep attachments to people, possessions, routines, and situations, leaning on them heavily for our happiness and sense of security. Stoics cultivated an outlook embracing impermanence and change as intrinsic to existence rather than forces to resist. Understanding the inevitably fluid nature of life diminishes worrying about desperately clinging to things or getting overly bothered by disruptions. Visualize losing a precious family heirloom like a ring passed down generations. The gut reaction is grief and distress at the disappearance of an item deemed permanent. Stoic thinkers challenged this perception of permanence, recognizing that all external things, from health to wealth, can unpredictably be gained and lost even within one's lifetime. By internalizing this truth, one worries less about situations or anxiously trying to make people or possessions permanent parts of life's landscape. Likewise, getting laid off from a long-held job triggers automatic panic about loss of stability. A Stoic perspective appreciates careers taking unexpected turns as just reflecting life's intrinsic uncertainty. By accepting impermanence rather than fighting it, one can avoid excessively caring about specific manifestations. Of all life's precious gifts, time is undoubtedly the most finite and irreplaceable. Once past, moments are gone forever, making time our most precious resource. Stoics understood this profoundly, elevating time above all else in their hierarchy of values. They practiced ruthlessly prioritizing activities that aligned with their principles and purpose over frittering away hours on diversionary pleasures. Picture spending weekends mindlessly binging shows while leaving a creative project or skill development untouched for months. Through a Stoic lens, determine whether that hobby still aligns deeply enough with your values to deserve such time investment. Analyze just how much satisfaction those hours bring compared to alternative uses, or examine wasted minutes annoyed in traffic. Consider using the captive time for self-improvement, like learning a language instead. Regularly evaluating how you spend time and eliminating activities not serving you permits focusing on what matters rather than getting caught up in unimportant matters. In modern society, many develop an extreme dependency on others for validation, self-worth, and even basic tasks like cooking or finances. This reliance on external factors for psychological and physical stability renders us highly prone to uncontrolled caring when situations or people inevitably change. Stoics mitigated this by cultivating rigorous self-sufficiency and autonomy. They strengthened themselves mentally to find stability from within rather than needing others to prop them up during hardship. Physically, they became adept even at basic life skills to avoid helplessness. Practice observing when you absolutely require others for decision-making, reassurance, or your sense of purpose. Then, consciously develop your own inner resilient frameworks for judgment, validation, and meaning. Exercise independence physically too. Know how to cook basic healthy meals, perform routine home repairs, manage your own finances. The more self-sufficient you grow, the less shaken you will be by external instability, blaming others or needing them to fulfill your well-being results from lack of inner independence. Stoics observed that much anxiety comes from chasing norms rather than blueprinting lives around basic human nature. They suggested living simply aligned to fundamental natural needs, often dismissed as too rudimentary. For instance, why twist nights sleeping less than biology demands just to indulge leisure or work? Or why primp with cosmetics rather than accentuating health and hygiene? When you catch yourself chasing standards, not serving your authentic needs and talents, pause. Question if complying is widening a divide between your lived reality and inner fulfillment. Be skeptical, too, of overworking for material signs of status rather than creating space for connections. Tuning decisions to core human requirements that get overridden breeds integrity. You worry less about artifice as a facade for approval, modeling values and behaviors purely around fundamental aspects of existence breeds freedom from unnecessary cares. As we explored in these Stoic tools for rational detachment, whether by controlling passions, focusing only on your sphere of influence, or taking an objective view, excessive caring is the root of much agony. Retraining our thinking patterns allows tackling anxieties and annoyances at their core. Embracing impermanence and self-sufficiency further diminishes reliance on externalities for inner stability or purpose. By catching and correcting exaggerated care through mindfulness of Stoic perspectives, we gradually develop hardened mental resilience regardless of circumstances. Soon, clarity and composure emerge as second nature, freeing us to live life unencumbered by insignificant attachments. That's the remarkable and freeing skill Stoicism offers to withstand adversity's inevitable winds and waves by learning to steer by inner compass. Master selective indifference, transform everyday turbulence into opportunity for wisdom and growth. Regain sovereignty over well-being, become captain of your mind, master of your fate.